Here we are. Welcome into a TigerBait.com postgame show. LSU loses to Kansas State in the Tax Act Texas Bowl, 42-20. Little fireworks there at the end. I don't know what Coach Davis had to say to Kansas State head coach at the end of the game. I don't know if he was apologizing for that late score or how he's going to talk about that. But it was a painful football game, to say the least. But before that, the LSU men's basketball team certainly had a pivotal win over Kentucky in the PMAC. And now we got Kim Mulkey's turn to get it done on Thursday night. So we're going to talk about both football and basketball tonight if you want. And, of course, we're brought to you by attorney Kenneth P. Haynes. And he's, of course, sponsors our post-game show all throughout the football season. So big thanks to Kenny. We're going to talk more about him later in the show. But, you know, there's a lot of ugliness as to how this game came about. You can debate whether they should even have been in the game. I know through most of December, there's a lot of people were hoping that maybe LSU might fake some COVID cases, and that way they could back out. You know, there's a lot of finger pointing as to why LSU looks this way, why the roster is down to 39 players. And it's just it's been one negative news item after the other. But at the same time, there's no denying that the kids that were there gave their all, and I feel sorry for them. Those kids deserve a lot of LSU fans' respect for showing up and being there and being outmanned and having not a whole, I don't know what you want to say, a whole arsenal.
Yeah, it was definitely a limping team out there. It was rough for LSU.
And so on one hand, you want to hammer, and you want to talk about how ugly it was, but but then there's also some kids out there that worked hard, practiced, and wanted to be there, and then you've got the other kids on the other hand that opted out and all the other various things that are out there. Kids who weren't academically eligible. There's a whole litany of reasons why LSU's roster looks the way it does right now. Brian Kelly, of course, talked to the ESPN guys during the game, and, you know, he talked about how he prefers to go with high school kids to build the program back up, but he's got to use the transfer portal, and he's absolutely right. So it's going to be a very interesting offseason. Recruiting is going to be huge in the coming weeks. We're going to have that all for you on TigerBait.com. But do us a favor. Please hit the like button. Please share. If you're watching us on YouTube and you're not a subscriber to our YouTube channel, and if you're enjoying the show, please hit the subscription button and the notification bell. We've been loading our YouTube channel up every day with player interviews, coaches interviews, shows. Buddy Sanji and I'll be back here tomorrow night for another show. So, Preston, what was your take on the game tonight?
Well, I think the thing that you really need to take away most from this, because if we sit here and dissect the X's and O's, we're just going to get frustrated all night long. It wasn't good coaching, really. It wasn't great. No promise, no players stepped up that gave you any thoughts for the future or anything like that. I mean, the game was what the game was, but they were out there representing what it means to be LSU, what it means to be this program, and you know, as our friend Tim Fitzgerald, who you know, I had one of his colleagues on my show last night
From Go PowerCat.
Yeah, GoPowerCat.com. He pointed out, let's be real. Most teams would have opted out of this bowl game. Kudos to LSU for showing up and playing with 38 scholarship players. So they all went out there, and I didn't see anybody half-stepping around. I mean, lots of effort. I mean, there were some mistakes played. Mike Jones dropped what would have been a pick six to maybe keep them in the game, because that's a 14-point swing if he catches that. Todd Harris missed some tackles, but nobody was half-stepping around. They were all out there playing with pride. Every player wearing the uniform tonight, I mean, if you had any minor excuse to miss this game, you missed this game for the most part, either opting out, injury, whatever it was. So everybody who was in uniform tonight wanted to be a Tiger. So for those reasons, I think you should take some pride in the program. They played hard to the final snap.
Yeah,
what a crazy game.
It's one of those deals where it's like almost if you're around Baton Rouge and you run into one of these kids that was playing tonight, you want to thank them for putting out the effort and showing up, because
a lot of people wouldn't have, and a lot of people didn't. let's be frank, a lot of people quit on this team.
Yeah.
And it sucks.
Brian Kelly and his staff have a lot of work to do.
Oh, yeah.
And this is not going to be an overnight fix, guys. It's just not. It might take 3 years for this program to get to where it comes close to meeting anybody's typical LSU expectations that we've all grown accustomed to witnessing this century. So,
Well, me and you were talking about that while we were watching the game, and I'm going to go ahead and put out my point that's a little different in that I think 5-10 years ago, you would be talking about a 3-year rebuild at least, because this team is just not anywhere near in a position to compete like we saw tonight. That wasn't even a good football team LSU played tonight. And
no, they were acting like they won a Super Bowl.
yeah, they were pretty excited about it. But
I mean, you had guys crying. I mean,
yeah,
come on. Man.
I mean, for real, it was a little silly, but good for Kansas State getting their Texas Bowl win. You know, I'm sure it means a good bit to them. But to me, I think with the transfer portal and with players coming out of high school more ready than ever before, and I mean, quite frankly, this recruiting class isn't going to rank high right now, but you've got a very good nucleus in this recruiting class. You just need a lot more of those guys. I think this could be a quicker rebuild than you think. I think the offensive line is going to be a multi-year rebuild. I think you're going to need some time with quarterback.
You know what's funny is I think the offensive line might come along quicker than a lot of other positions.
DB is one that stands out as taking some time to replenish. I mean, you had a guy in Pig Cage playing DB for you tonight. Might have been your best DB tonight. But
Yeah. American Patriot, proud of those men tonight. They could have folded, but they showed up and took a whipping like men. Go Tigers.
There you
Absolutely.
There you go.
Jim Milano. Preston, you were right. A pick six by Mike Jones, a tackle by Todd Harris, and one less interception. This game would have looked different.
It would have. But, I mean, ultimately, you just didn't have a football team that could compete for 4 quarters tonight. I'm not necessarily sure that if those breaks do go your way that this is even a close game.
Jim Milano, I like that they called timeouts at the end and went for it and scored that last touchdown. Look, I think there's a lot to the story that I don't know, not because I wasn't in Houston. I think there's a reason why they did what they did. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm going to tell you this. That box score after that one play, I mean, looked a lot better. It was an 81-yard score. Jontre Kirkland threw for 138 yards. So he had like 50-something yards. They only had 302 yards of offense. So before that, it was like they got outgained like 442 to whatever. So the box score looks a lot better.
What a gamer is he? I mean, obviously he doesn't have the skills to be a major college quarterback.
No.
That's why he's an athlete. He plays wide receiver, and but he went for it, man.
Well, I think
did he look like a guy who was scared?
No, he took 5 throws downfield, and I think somebody caught all 5 of them. I think he had dink and dunks, like little bubble screen type stuff, but he threw the ball downfield 5 times, and he had 2 interceptions and 3 touchdowns. So, yeah, good for him having some fun out there. I do feel, there's a feel good that this was Jontre Kirkland's last football game for LSU, and he got to go out and have some fun playing quarterback. I'm sure there's a lot of feel-good stories out there for guys who probably never would have a chance to play for LSU, much less LSU in a bowl game like that, who got to play. And you feel happy for them because it's just so rare that you see guys like that get to play.
Michael Douillon or Duhan, depending on which area of the state you're from. If you're from Erath and Delcom, you say Michael Douillon. Is HN ahead of Citizen on the recruiting depth chart? No, he's not. Not for LSU. I really like Trevor a lot, but Citizen is higher on LSU's board. Bayou Bingle, Mike, mad respect to our players tonight, especially Kirkland. They did not give up, and they played hard all night. Jim Milano, how about those basketball Tigers? Definitely.
How about them?
That was fun to watch tonight. There were some aggravating moments too.
For sure.
But Days was 2 for 10 from 3-point line. I got after him a little bit, like, hey man, they're not falling. And as soon as I said that, boom, he hit it. He hit a key one. So.
You know what stood out to me watching that basketball game? So Kentucky opened up the second half on a 13-2 run. And I kind of got like just flashbacks of like these Johnny Jones teams that, you know, they be in the game or whatever, and then the other team just goes on a run, and LSU just couldn't stop it for an entire
Well,
game.
you know what he did? He kind of is look like Mulkey's teams against these ranked opponents,
Yeah.
where you keep waiting for her being in the first year at LSU with a new team, and a team makes a run at them. You think they're going to fold up, and they don't. They actually trudge ahead and end up pulling
Yeah.
away and having a
Well,
night.
but the thing is, right after that 13-2 run, they ripped off a 20-2 run. And then, of course, you know, Kentucky went on their thing, got the game close there at the end. And you can't close the game stronger than what they did with back-to-back dunks and then a block. What a cool ending. And by the way, the PMAC was freaking rocking tonight. So really good to see where the state of LSU basketball is. Hopefully, Brian Kelly can get the state of LSU football up there. But boy, I think if tonight says anything, it's that Brian Kelly truly has his work cut out for him. I mean, if he goes 6-6 next year, don't freak out, because while this team might have went 6-6 this year, that team that he got handed, the team that was on the field tonight, that ain't no 6-6 football team.
Well, I tell you what, guys, I want to talk about, of course, our good friend Kenneth B. Haynes. He sponsors this post-game show each and every week. 1989 graduate of LSU Paul M. Hebert Law Center, 30 years of experience in family, business, and personal injury litigation. Over 15 years of experience as an assistant district attorney handling all post-conviction matters. He's been lead counsel on everything from complicated rollover accident to a simple divorce to a death sentence appeal. He's board certified in family law since 2004 and board certified in appellate practice every year that the specialty has been offered. He served on the Specialization Advisory Committee for Family Law 2 full terms. He's currently serving on the Specialization Advisory Committee for Appellate Practice, and he's currently the vice chairman. He's an invited speaker for LSU Continuing Legal Education, and he's a proud founding member of TigerBait.com. He's a very active participant on our Tiger Den message board, and he's sometimes referred to as the unofficial lawyer of TigerBait because he always reserves the right to think most clearly for a paying client. 912 Kings Highway there in Shreveport. If you need any legal advice in North Louisiana, anywhere from Alexandria, Shreveport, Monroe, anywhere north, Natchitoches, you name it, give him a call, 318-222-2100. In the summary of the show, there's a link to his bio, and click on it. Go read about Kenny. And again, if you need anything legally, Kenny is your guy, and we're glad to have him as a friend of the show and a friend. Period. Let's see what else we got, guys.
If you need to know anything about the state of LSU's basketball versus football right now, consider this. LSU got blown out by Kentucky in football, but just beat Kentucky in basketball. What a weird, paradoxical time it is to be an LSU fan, huh?
Simon Guillory, Max Johnson couldn't have waited till after this bowl game to transfer. Play for your seniors and brothers. You know, I don't know what it's going to take to get in this era now of NIL and transfer portals, and I don't know what it's going to take to get that team concept back. Certainly it's going to, if you're a head football coach, you're going to be probably doing a much longer and strenuous investigation into the kids you're recruiting, where they're from. I do think that probably you're going to want, if you're an LSU coach, you're going to want to probably, you probably like me, where you're going to believe that your Louisiana kids are most likely going to be the ones to stick around and do what's right, just because they've got a lot more pressure to do so because of where they're from. They're not going to want to go home to New Iberia. They're not going to want to go home to Alexandria and say that they're transferring out to go somewhere.
Right, yeah. I mean, nobody wants to go to New Iberia, right? I'm just kidding, guys. Just kidding. Yeah, and you heard Brian Kelly on the broadcast.
And I'm just using New Iberia as an example.
You didn't intentionally, as a Lafayette guy, you didn't intentionally
I could have said Bunkie or Moss Point. I mean, Moss Bluff.
I don't know,
Eric
Mike. I think that
DeLion.
might have been an intentional shot. But look, Brian Kelly mentioned what you're saying on the broadcast. I think a lot of what he was saying was kind
I've
of
been saying that
revealing
for years.
more is that he really wants to focus on recruiting Louisiana. I think he sees the trend of not only
But I also think that's a canned answer. He's said it about 4 times in different interviews.
yeah, I mean, absolutely. And then he also said exactly what we always knew of, he's going to hit the transfer portal hard. I think he is going to go for Louisiana kids, and I think he understands that not only is Louisiana have plenty of talent. I mean, if you lock down 12 of the top 15 players in this state in any given year, you're going to have a pretty darn good recruiting class. But also those players tend to stick a bit better. The homesick factor and pride in the program.
But that's my point. If you're from a small town in Louisiana or a big town, when you announced that you were going to LSU in front of a packed gym, those kids are all there at school wearing LSU gear. They were all happy you were going to LSU. So you're not going to go back home to that town and say, I'm transferring out because I don't like where I'm at on the depth chart.
Yeah.
You might at some point, but it won't be easy.
You know what I think is also going to help with this whole roster issue that LSU's had is a coach with a vision and in direction for the program who sells you on that, and then when you get there, fulfills it. I think part of the problem with LSU's opt-outs is you had a coach who was a little too sporadic. You had guys like, I look at Saika Ike. He's got one of those names nobody will ever make fun of me for mispronouncing, but he played for Baylor, and he was nose tackle for LSU. Well, they sold him, being a star nose tackle in Dave Aranda's 3-4 defense at LSU. Well, 1 year later, or 2 years later, I guess he played 2 years here, Dave Aranda leaves, and they switch to a 4-3. A whole new defensive scheme. Where's the rhyme or reason to that? Your whole defense for years.
And when did LSU look best?
Under the 3-4, no doubt.
When they switched to it after the open date. Eric DeLion, like the live show, Mike, it was an eye-opener to me to see how this program is to really a lot worse than me and most realize. Worried for the next few years, no doubt. And,
no doubt.
On one hand, I think that's probably a benefit for Brian Kelly because it lowers the expectations. And the most very casual LSU football fan knows that the nucleus there is going to take time.
Yeah.
I think the biggest pie in the sky LSU fan might be thinking 7-5 or 8-4 next year.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, if you're talking 9-3 or 10-2 next year,
it's just not realistic.
I mean, that's crazy.
I think you should just hope for 7-5 at this point. Now, we'll see.
And by the way, if you're a big LSU football fan and you enjoy the watching how things get built and really understanding the off seasons and kids getting better and developing, then you're going to enjoy this.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think people will necessarily hate the losses if they see what's being built.
Yeah,
if they see
I agree.
if they see
Pride,
an end
that
game
they're playing
down
well.
the road.
Yeah, young players not being playing stupid out there. Consistency, not just doing crazy stuff week in week out. Like just build in a direction that fans can buy into.
Tangy Turtle, selfish for Nuss not to play tonight. Competitors are going to compete no matter what the situation. He had a chance to showcase his talent to a new coaching staff. I don't understand why he wouldn't play. I disagree. In fact, it's my understanding that the coaches at LSU didn't even want to ask him or try and talk him into it because in their mind, it wasn't right to ask him to burn a red shirt.
Yeah. Well,
not for a Tax Act Texas Bowl.
I'm never gonna harp on a kid for making a decision for what they feel is best.
I can make a harp though about playing him in some of the games that he played in.
Oh, absolutely. But what are you gonna do? Get rid of the guy who made those decisions? He's already gone.
And I'm also of the opinion that the NCAA probably needs to reverse that rule and allow the bowl game to be freebies. Period. Where you can get your 4 in during the season.
Yeah.
And that the bowl game is just a total mulligan.
And I think they've needed to do a few things with bowl games. I've said for years now, like if you have an early enrollee freshman, let them play the bowl game without having any eligibility impact. I think that'd be pretty cool and exciting.
American Patriot, why didn't Besh play tonight? I missed the reason he didn't play. They said he had COVID, and he had only practiced one time. So, and thank you very much for the super chat. Thank you all for the super chat.
Appreciate your support.
We had one earlier as well.
It's been a fun season for these shows. Appreciate all of y'all's support this season.
Absolutely. Gregory Price, I agree those guys had no class and were freaking jerks. Their coach was an over-the-top D. All right, Greg.
Tell us how you really feel, though.
Paul Batts, I am sick of these opt-outs. I would be lying to say I'm okay with it. Yeah. I get it. We're in a new era, but it's not the same. And you know what, Paul? I hate saying this because I'm always going to have a guy like Preston say, all right, boomer, even though I'm Generation X.
Barely.
But the BCS got it right. And when did these bowl games and opt-outs start coming into practice? When the playoff system came about. We've had 1 year. No, we haven't even had 1 year. We haven't had 1 year of the CFP where both semifinal games were competitive.
Yeah.
The BCS got it right.
But hear me out. How many of those national titles weren't competitive? I mean, yeah, a handful of times. Are you telling me that there's just two good teams every single year?
I don't. So now we're going to go to a 12 playoff team? I mean, to me,
you would get more competitive games out of that. Let me tell you the problem with the current setup is you're kind of in the worst of both worlds.
I want to go back to the BCS.
Look, there's some pros to the BCS and there's some pros to a playoff that's expanded, but you kind of get the cons of both right now.
There was no cons. Where was the cons in the BCS?
Well, I mean, come on. There was plenty of cons. I mean,
what name one?
Well, USC got completely shafted in 2003. I mean, let's be honest. Did Oklahoma deserve to be in that game?
Dude, are you trying to run off every LSU fan?
We still have to deal with that crap. No. 20 years later, we're still hearing USC split championships. No. They're still making documentaries acting like that LSU didn't even win it that year.
It didn't matter. Nobody who has a crystal football.
Well, I mean, look, that would have been a good year for a playoff.
The BCS got it right because LSU was there.
What about in 2019 when there was 3 undefeated teams? Who do you leave out in 2019? You send Ohio State home, or I guess Clemson stays home as the undefeated national champs in 2019. So there's some pros and cons. My point is, what you've done with a 4-team playoff is you've made every other bowl game a useless piece of garbage. Nobody cares.
Sam Rado, and y'all complaining about Brian Kelly clean house, let LSU football begin. I know there's some people complaining, not me. I tell you one thing I'm not going to do. I'm not going to be the guy that acts like every hire that Brian Kelly makes is the greatest coach at his position that was available.
Yeah.
So
there's been a lot of coaches he's hired that, I'm kind of like, okay, could be good. I'm not going to sit here and tell you. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, like, Denbrock is a guy I'm just thoroughly excited with. I mean, I see the pros and I see some of the cons with him.
Tangy Turtle, Mike seems like he supports cancel culture. No, I do not. I don't
know. You're a little snowflakey.
I'm on the other, the reverse opposite. Tangy. Ask him.
I've gotten a few rude DMs from him from time to time.
Adam Ahmed, love the show, guys. Thank you, Adam.
Appreciate you.
Rick Kelly, the problem with the BCS is they let some coaches vote and others not. Letting Saban have a vote is a joke.
Yeah. Well, I remember Chris Peterson at Boise State used his vote strategically. He put himself number 1, even though they obviously weren't number 1, just to get himself in the game.
There was never a year where the 2 teams that play for the national championship in the BCS I disagreed with.
Oh, man. I want to just go back and look at it real quick. I wish I had a list in front of me. I wasn't prepared to that. But I promise you, there's something. I mean, look. I don't know. Let me tell you the case for an expanded playoff. Let's just go with that. So currently, you get 3 games people really care about. Has a single program expressed any excitement about making it to a New Year's Six bowl?
I tell you what, I enjoyed watching that Baylor Ole Miss game. Now I wish Matt Corral
Sure, it was a
wouldn't have
fun
got hurt.
bowl game.
When that game showed up on that Sunday, that was the game I was looking forward to the most.
Right.
And it was actually a darn good
But
game.
but
even
let's be real. Do the bowl games mean as much as a
and their
BCS bowl?
And their kids did not opt out.
Do you remember when LSU got to play Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl with Jamarcus Russell? How exciting that was.
And that's BCS era, where bowl games
BCS
matter.
era. That's what I'm telling you is the BCS made bowl games matter. They no longer matter. Nobody cares if you're not in the playoffs. So there's 3 games.
So because you wrecked it, you have to make a 12-team playoff.
Just to give yourself more than 3
just to get it
football
back.
games. That's exactly right. That's what I'm saying. You either need to expand it or look. I would not be upset if you reverted back.
But you're right. I would like to be, but you can't. It's too late.
Yeah, it's
Now,
too late.
now you have to go to the 12.
You already did it. Yeah. And I think what almost every fan can agree, whatever the direction is, you're in no man's land in a lot of areas right now where you get the worst of both sides of the equation. College football needs some reform.
Adam
and it needs it
Ahmed
bad.
with a super chat that says CA. Is that Canadian? 279?
Yeah, he is from Canada. Yeah,
I like
he made it down to Houston. He's one of our Twitter Spaces guys. You know that
All
Twitter
right.
Space you don't
Awesome,
like, Boomer?
awesome.
Yeah. Hey, appreciate you, Adam. Hope you
Big
enjoyed
time.
the game.
Have a safe trip.
we got 279
Well,
Canadian dollar. What is that like $4 Canadian dollars?
There's a conversion rate.
I know. That's funny.
I like it.
Probably $3 in Canada, huh?
Josh Forbes. Hey guys, sad the season is over. Enjoyed y'all's season of coverage. It's been fun. Well, we're not stopping, Josh.
Yeah.
I got my show tomorrow night. Preston is debating to keep his.
I will tell you this. My show's going to definitely go through the end of January. I'm talking with some sponsors, and we're trying to see if we can line up a year-round show. It will still be the LSU football fix if I go year-round. So we'll talk about niche LSU off-season topics and
We're going to be doing
that type of
We're
stuff.
going to be at an LSU baseball show. Of course, this January, this month is going to be one of the more significant months. One of the more. It's going to be the most. It's going to be the most significant since the NCAA added the December signing period. With what LSU needs, the transfer portal, still got an open spot on Brian Kelly's staff. Junior days I think we're going to have more traditional junior days come up. Anxious to see when they schedule spring football practices, what are going to be the dates on those. I think we're about to get into the stretch here where we're going to see how he's going to put it all together.
Yep.
So it's going to be very interesting.
By the way, that's another thing about signing day. Don't you think that's another thing that needs to be changed in college football? Get rid of that early signing day period?
I think the early signing period either needs to go or it only be available to midterm grads.
That's where I keep on saying is like, okay, yeah, the Gunnar Keel situation, I think there should be something in place if you're going to campus in January. There's no reason for kids who are graduating in May. Why do you need to sign in December? It's just, and it's created this thing where the coaches are bailing on the teams, which causes the players to bail on the teams.
But even then, schools like LSU, they're recruiting a lot of kids who are midterm grads. So
Sure.
I don't know that solves the problem. That it's still going to force athletic directors to fire coaches.
How many
September and October.
midterm grads do you think you're getting at
You're
most?
getting close,
7?
You're getting close to double digits. I mean, every year. and those are usually your big time kids.
Honestly, has LSU ever had double-digit early enrollees?
Most of your 5 stars.
I don't. Yeah, I get
Most
that.
of your national 100
yeah, they're like
kids,
IMG guys who
they're midtermers.
Right, I get it. But you might get like
The point of getting rid of the
4 or
early signing
5.
period is to stop
But honestly,
the firing of coaches.
I don't think LSU has ever gotten that many early enrollees. And, having an early signing day for those guys, it doesn't necessarily change the urgency of bringing a new coach in to come in and get those guys to commit to your team because they're still in the process. They're still deciding and they enroll in your school in early January. So it doesn't change all that much.
Carmen Allen, Cincinnati is another example for why there is no need for playoff expansion.
Is it though? Because Michigan also got their tail whooped.
That's what I'm saying.
That's like Oklahoma got their tail whooped.
If it was the BCS, it just would have been Georgia and
Yeah, but
Alabama.
remember Oklahoma.
We didn't need those semifinals.
Oklahoma USC 04. Should it have been just one team? Should they have just declared USC the champion because Jason White in Oklahoma with Adrian Peterson rolled out there and couldn't hold a tail to them?
I'm just saying we didn't need the semifinal playoff games. We just should have said it was Georgia and Alabama.
Would it have been? Was Georgia? Georgia was number 3. It wouldn't have been Georgia. It would have been Michigan.
Should have been Georgia.
Okay, but it wasn't gonna be when the BCS in the BCS era this year. It is Georgia. It is Michigan, Alabama. Is that right?
Believe me.
Is that right?
Believe me. If it would have been that system voting, and they were deciding who was going to play in the national championship game, it would have been Alabama and Georgia.
Maybe so. Maybe they just gave Michigan the 2. I kind of get where you're coming from.
Yeah, because they didn't want those two teams to play each other in the semis.
Yeah.
American Patriot. I think Baylor was better than Cincinnati. I think you're right. I would be interested to see that game. I think it probably would have been a good game.
I think it would have been a good game indeed, yeah.
You know, look, let's not kid ourselves. Ole Miss losing Matt Corral in that game was a killer for them. Exactly.
Although, I will say this, Luke Altmaier didn't put up a great game. He threw the pick 6, but he showed some poise that I really like.
He's got a big future.
I think he's going to be a very good kid, and I talked to him in the recruiting process, and I remember getting off the phone with him and saying...
That kid loved LSU. He had a great visit to LSU. I was there at camp. He was one of those kids that was at the LSU camp and got offered by Ed Orgeron. That unbelievable camp where you had Caleb Williams, Walker Howard, Nussmeier, TJ, Max. They were all there.
I got this feeling when I got off the phone with him that he likes LSU, but he ain't coming here. And his dad works for Mississippi State, on their training staff.
Because of Walker.
So I thought he was going to go there, but he ended up at Ole Miss. But with all the kids LSU was recruiting hard, I could tell it just wasn't going to happen. But let me tell you this:
but he did have an offer, and he enjoyed it.
Very bright kid.
Yeah,
very bright kid. I do think he's got a good future with him. We'll see. I don't know. There's a lot of talk of Ole Miss hitting the transfer portal. Are they going to go for Caleb Williams? Are they going to go for what's that Incarnate World player? Is he signed with anybody yet? Cameron Ward. That's a guy who a lot of people were saying to him. We'll see.
Tangy Turtle, Luke Altmaier, 3-star, Nuss and Max 4 stars. Luke will be better than all of them. Yeah, Luke was definitely better than a 3. I had him as a 4 myself. So I agree, Tangy. All right, guys. I want to thank our we've got some big news coming on Pride Roofing tomorrow night. They just made a big purchase, merging their business into a second entity, and it's absolutely huge, a multi-million-dollar deal for Pride Roofing. But let's hear from Mike and Alex.
Hi, I'm Michael with Pride Roofing.
I'm Alex.
Were you affected by Hurricane Ida?
Insurance claim, no problem.
Are you concerned about the shortage of building materials?
We have what you need.
We're licensed residential and commercial contractors.
In Louisiana and Mississippi.
We install shingles, metal, and commercial roofing. From Baton Rouge to Slidell or Houma up to the North Shore.
We got you covered. Call Pride, 855-PRIDE-16.
Pride Roofing, the official roofer of TigerBait.com.
Cameron Ward's still there.
All right, we're back. Let me see if I need to get some more of these. Carmen Allen BCF playoff goal. Best 2 teams playing each other, not who is number 8. Yeah.
Well, look, and worth noting, guys, the thing is, if you did it, it wouldn't be an 8-team playoff.
Well, if you're Alabama, you're getting a bye week.
Yeah, you're getting some buys. I think if you're number 1 and number 2.
But if you're the 12th seed, you're gonna have to play 16 games to win a title.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine. If you are so hot, you snuck in as the 12th team, and you're just slaying everybody down on your way to Alabama in the semis. Cool, you earned your spot. Have fun.
But you're going to have to play one more.
But game. I think some of these teams, let's be honest, Mike. Baylor is a team that didn't make the playoff. I'm going to be honest. I think Baylor puts up a better fight than Cincinnati and Michigan. I'm not sure we're really getting the true best 4 teams in the country. I think teams are losing because their paper isn't as good. It's like your credit score, their resume isn't as sharp, and it's not fair to put this team in, but we all have a feeling that this team would probably do some damage if you gave them a shot. Oklahoma State's another one where man, I don't know. You put them in there, they could have done some damage.
Rick Kelly, Mike, is a wide receiver group the strongest group for LSU next year? I think it is. I do.
There's a lot of guys, but who's the guy?
And you're saying that, and LSU just went 0 for 3 for wide receivers in this class.
You see, I think it's a good room numbers-wise, which numbers is so important for this team because they're just lacking.
And then
them.
you got Polian out there offering the Hawaii wide receiver Saturday.
I saw that.
The 6'5", he's originally from Ontario, Canada. And so they're looking for another wide receiver. Polian is going to be a very big deal for Brian Kelly. And of course, if you know football, you know he's Bill Polian's son, and his brother is at Baylor on Dave Aranda's staff and is also in player personnel. So he very much is the guy for Kelly when it comes to extending offers, evaluating players, and so when we're talking about this and that guy who's ahead of LSU's recruiting department and who gets offered and signs off on him, it's going to be Polian. He's going to be taking the lead on all that.
Yeah, and you know what stood out to me?
He's very active right now.
His first day on the job, he came in and got with LSU's graphic design department and said, give me some graphics to put out about transfers, what they've done at LSU. So Joe Burrow and Braden Fajoko, all those guys, Liam Shanahan on this pretty little graphic. First day on the job, trying to get some transfers out there. I've never seen LSU actively and publicly recruit transfers like that.
Absolutely got to.
I mean, you need to. This is not this freshman class, the signing class, and the roster we saw tonight is not going to be a winning football team next year. Period. You're going to need to bring in some transfers. That's why everybody wants to know. Okay, well, what do we think about next year? Look, I don't know, and anybody who acts like they know doesn't know anything. Like this won't happen. But let's just throw the craziest wild card that could possibly happen. Caleb Williams transfers. That obviously changes the team dramatically. Now, I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm just throwing it out there as an example of why it's ridiculous to judge what you think the team's going to be right now.
Simon Guillory, Scott Woodward raised $17 million for a coach's buyout. How fast can LSU become a threat in NIL? Seems like A&M Bama has adjusted quick. I don't think it takes long at all. It's not difficult.
No.
It's pretty darn simple. In fact, I think it's probably further along than us guys in the media and everybody else think it is. We've already seen local attorneys step up. I personally know of some other things that are working behind the scenes. A lot of people are stepping forward, and I think that's going to come together a lot quicker. And I think it's further along than a lot of us know right now. I think Scott Woodward probably needs to do an interview with somebody in the media sometime soon to talk about a myriad of issues like that. But that's also a tricky situation from their standpoint, how much they talk about NIL and their involvement in it. Because really the only thing you can do is put the two together, but you can't really act like you're promoting it.
Yeah. Well, and to me, I mean, it's just the rules they've put in place about not using it as an incentive in recruiting. I mean, that's just being disrespected right now, and there's nothing you can really do about it. So I'm sure that there's going to be some NIL reform going on. But, I mean, long story short, if you know that every single offensive lineman signing with the University of Texas gets a $50,000 pancake deal, you kind of get the point. If I sign with Texas, I'm getting $50,000, whether they said it to you or not.
I almost kind of think that are we going to see almost like it's a pyramid scheme where the kids who are on the ground floor of this NIL, they're going to get crazy money right now. And then then years down the line, as businesses and fans start to realize, what did I get for my money that I laid out for these players? What's the cost-benefit analysis? What's the entertainment factor?
Well, let me put it like this. What's the cost-benefit analysis of a Taft donor? You know what I mean? Like people have been giving money to athletic departments for, decades, not getting any kind of business sense in return.
But it's also, too, like it's a name, image, likeness. Okay, well, are you putting these particular players on a billboard representing your business?
Yeah.
And then what happens if that kid goes out and gets a DUI?
Well, same thing that happens with professional athletes. I don't think there's any reason to act like we've never seen, an image endorsement
but
before.
they do their due diligence. It's almost like a 19-year-old college student trying to get his first credit card.
Yeah.
The credit line's real low.
Yeah.
Until you prove yourself.
Yeah. Well, and look, until you figure these things out, I don't think we're going to see the things we're hating in college football. Bowl season's a joke. Coaches are abandoning their teams. Players are abandoning their teams. And I don't know. I do know this. I talked to my buddy Blake Ruffino about this in depth, and he swears I'm crazy, but I have noticed a lot of players have lost, like they don't get drafted as high as the mock drafts have them when they opt out of bowl game or season, whatever you may call it. They tend to drop. Now, I don't have any mass data. It's really difficult to get mass data on that, and of course, COVID has completely confused that. But I do think that there's eventually someone's going to catch on that, and a lot of NFL GMs have come out and publicly said, I'm hesitant to draft the kid.
If Eli Ricks doesn't have a breakout year for Alabama or really looks special, what does that do for him?
Well,
if a general manager is looking at him and the way he's conducted himself,
well, they're going to see a player who wasn't consistently on the field, played
wasn't
well
a good
always there, didn't stick
teammate.
around, and then went to your arch nemesis. I don't know. To me, like a player that would opt out of a bowl game or transfer out of his team mid-season to protect his own future sounds a lot like a player who would hold out of a contract in his contract year to protect his future. And I'm gonna tell you this: NFL coaches, they don't like that. They don't want that shenanigans. So there's a lot of good football players out there. I'm not saying it makes you undraftable, but if you got a guy who stuck it out the whole time with one team and was through and through and was loyal, who can also play ball just about as good, they're probably gonna go with other guy. You know what I mean? I mean, there's some exceptions, but I just think eventually that will bring balance once that information becomes a little more clear, once COVID really, works its course and has been done. Last year, the 2020 season just really confused the conversation with guys like Jamar Chase, but then I think of guys like Greedy Williams. Remember, nobody thought Greedy Williams would be around in the second round. Everybody said that's a lock for a first-round pick, and there he was. I think he was drafted like 44th by the Browns.
Let me talk about Tony Freeman. Of course, she's one of our major sponsors each and every week. So if you're thinking of buying a new home or refinancing your current mortgage but haven't found a lender you can trust, let me tell you about Tony Freeman with Assurance Financial right here in Baton Rouge. She's a very dear friend of mine and someone who many of my friends have used for their mortgage needs repeatedly. Her knowledge and over 25 years of experience in the mortgage industry is unsurpassed. She offers a wide range of knowledge of home loan products. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, ready to buy a new home, or you just want to explore your refinance options, Tony can guide you through your next mortgage experience. You can feel confident you're making the best financial decision with Tony as your guide. Not only is Tony a huge LSU fan, but Assurance Financial is a proud partner of LSU Athletics. Give her a call today. Call Tony at 225-239-7150. Again, that's 225-239-7150. And please tell her you heard about her from TigerBait.com. NMLS number 104765. Equal housing opportunity 70876. And Tony Freeman is the absolute best. And if you're needing like I said, looking for a mortgage or a refi, if you're anywhere in Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, she's licensed in multiple states, and I know multiple LSU fans who have seen her sponsor the show have reached out to her, and she's gotten the job done for them, and they've been absolutely happy with their testimonials when they've emailed me about it. So give her a call. Nick Perez, 40 players. Yes, we have mostly all 4- and 5-star recruits going up against a team without a single 4-star. Hope we could play better than that. No.
I mean, come on, man.
No, LSU was not mostly 4- and 5-star.
I mean, what was John Trey Kirkland as a quarterback recruit? I mean, come on. He wasn't
Kirkland
a quarterback
was a 3-star.
Well, that's as a receiver, though.
Yeah.
As a quarterback, that's he's just not an idiot.
You had a lot of walk-ons on the field.
Yeah, he's not an FBS
You had
quarterback.
2/3? No, every coach was an analyst on the sideline.
Seven were yeah. I mean, Brad Davis
Andre
is
Carter
obviously
and Brad Davis. Who else was on? And Pete's.
yeah.
Okay, so 7 of 10.
Yeah. 7 of 10 were analysts. That's right. I mean, come on. And, like, you could see, like, even, like, on some special teams coverage, you can see, like, okay, that's where coaching was really breaking down. I mean, come on, man. I get what you're saying, 40 to 4 and 5-star players. Dude, you're supposed to have 85. I mean, and not all those guys were necessarily guys who were ready. I mean, you had 6-year senior quarterback playing for Kansas State. I didn't think for a moment LSU would win this game. I thought maybe they could look a little more competitive, and at times they did. Like their pass rush looked pretty darn good tonight. Like they got after the quarterback, but then you just saw there was no one covering the ball in the backfield, which maybe they should have been, given that you had you had Jay Ward and you had Todd Harris back there, but they weren't really doing a great job.
All right, guys, go subscribe to TigerBait. We've got a lot of Preston's post-game stories up. Brian Lazar's instant analysis just arrived in my box. I'm going to have that posted here in a few minutes. Going to have Coach Davis's video as well, post-game. We've got all that for you and more. Go to TigerBait.com. Please subscribe. We want to have you as a part of our premium community. I'm on the Tiger Den message board day and night. We've got a lot of great subscribers and talking football and recruiting and basketball. And of course, baseball is just weeks away. So we're going to be very busy at TigerBait.com. If you're an LSU fan, I really think you'll enjoy what we're doing at TigerBait.com. Buddy Sanji and I will be back here tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. And we'll have more to talk about on this one after the dust settles on it. And so see you guys then. Hit the subscription button on YouTube and notification bell. As soon as we go live, you'll get a notification. So thanks to all of you for participating. I know it's a work night, late night tonight. And we'll see you tomorrow night, 8 o'clock.
Y'all have a fun time waking up bright and early for work tomorrow.
Good night, y'all.